This video is brought to you by ARE Study Warrior, studiously preparing architects for their difficult set of 6 ARE NCARB architectural registration exams for licensure. This video focuses on slopes in architecture. Please go ahead and hit that big thumbs up like button below if you enjoy our content, and subscribe if you want to see more. So, understanding slopes in architecture. Understanding slopes will be extremely helpful for especially the programming and analysis, PPD, and PDD exams. Slopes, remember, are always rise on the vertical over run on the horizontal. They're always the same. Slopes can be given in percentages, they can be given in ratios, and they can even be given in fractions. Let's dive deeper. So slopes can get confusing, since they can be a percentage like a 2% slope or a ratio like a 1 to 50 slope. However, these two are exactly the same thing. Slopes can even be given as just the rise, which gets a bit more confusing, like a 1/4 inch slope. We'll cover that later. Just remember that slopes are quite simple once you understand them and study and use them enough. When you look at something with a 1 to 20 slope, remember that slopes are always rise over run. Rise is the height, run is the horizontal. With ratio, the rise will always come first. So in the case of a 1 to 20 slope, the rise is 1 and the run is 20. If you're comparing a 1/12 slope to a 1 to 20 slope, let's do that real quick. Only the run has increased. The rise or height of 1 has stayed the same in both of these slopes. And that should quickly tell you that the greater run distance, 20 is greater than 12 in this case, would be less of a slope, or i.e. closer to flat ground. Said another way, a 1/12 slope is steeper than a 1/20 slope, and that's shown here. So how can you quickly convert these ratios to percentage slopes in your mind? Let's take a 1/12 slope first. Since percentages are always out of 100 when it comes to slopes, how many times does 12 go into 100? 12 goes into 100 8.33 times. That means that a 1/12 slope is equal to a 8.33 percentage slope. Now I'll give you 5 seconds to quickly convert a 1 to 20 slope into a percentage slope. It should be easy enough. All right, 5 seconds is up. So a 120 slope would be a 5% slope. Let's quickly look at the math there. 20 goes into 100 5 times, therefore that's a 5% slope. Easy enough. Probably the toughest slopes to understand in architecture are the 1/4 inch and 1/8 inch slopes. That's because a 1/4 inch slope does not mean a 1 to 4 slope or a 25% slope in our field. It's different. Let's take a look. So many already know that when clients say they want a flat roof, it's not actually in fact flat. The flat roof needs to have a minimum 1/4 inch slope so that runoff can drain effectively and not pool on the rooftop. And a 1/4 inch slope may appear flat on first glance, but of course we all know that it's not. So what does that 1/4 inch slope mean exactly? That just means that for every 1 foot of run, you need 1/4 inch of rise or height difference in your roof. So how do we convert that 1/4 inch to a percentage slope for the exam, for instance? Just simply calculate how many times does 1/4 inch go into 1 foot. I'll give you 5 seconds. All right, time's up. First, 1/4 inch goes into 1 inch, we all know 4 times. Second, there are 12 inches in a foot, therefore 12 times 4 is 48. So you have a 48 to 100 slope roof, or a 2.08% slope. However, we call a 1/4 inch slope a 2% slope in the industry, but it's 2.08%. Why do we call it 2%? Well, that's just because 50 over 100 is 2% and not 48 over 100. So in the construction industry, this 48 over 100 is rounded up to 50 over 100 and called a 2% slope. It's fudged slightly, is basically what's happening. It makes life easier on the builder and on our imperial system. And the exact same thing happens with a 1/8 inch slope. Let's take a look. A 1/8 inch slope is actually considered a 1% slope. This is important to remember. However, when you calculate it out, 1/8 inch slope is actually 1 to 96, not 1 to 100. A 1/8 inch slope goes into 1 inch, as we all know, 8 times, and there are 12 inches in a foot. Therefore, 8 times 12 is 96, not 100. But again, we're rounding that 96 up to 100 to make life easier on all of us using the imperial system. So just remember the 1/4 inch and 1/8 inch slopes, and remember what percentages each of those are. Important to memorize that, really. Just remember, when slopes get confusing, that slopes are ratios and percentages that can easily be converted back and forth using 100 as your common guide. Roof slopes are given as fractions. A 312 roof, for instance, is 3-inch rise for every 12-inch run. So when you're studying for the exam, practice converting slopes back and forth and memorize the most common slopes, like the ones below. A 112, a 1/16 slope, a 1/20 slope, a 1/50 slope, a 1/4 inch slope, an 1/8 inch slope, and then the common roof slopes like a 312, a 412, a 512, a 612 roof. So thanks for using ARE Study Warrior, and we'll see you next time.